Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Stanley's Stinkers, a unique look at college football where we pick the losers. That's right, the losers. Each week we'll look at 20 of the biggest games, we'll break down the teams, we'll analyze the coaches, and we might even flirt with the cheerleaders. But in the end, we'll predict the losers, or in this case, the stinkers in each of the contests. Stay tuned because this week's games are coming up. Well, Stanley Stinkers is across the 50-yard line and the end zone is in sight. In Week 9, we suffered through a 14-6 record, bringing our overall mark to 77%. Well, that's still not bad considering we don't back down from the big games, and you know we use reverse prognostication to predict the losers in college football's biggest games. With that being said, here are the games that show up Saturday on the Stinkometer. New Mexico State at Auburn. This is a matchup of two 1-7 teams. The only difference between the two is that Auburn won a national championship 2 years ago and New Mexico State didn't. Aside from that, the two teams are not that far apart, and the Striped Cats don't have a lot of hope against their second consecutive opponent nicknamed the Aggies. If Coach Gene Chizik wants to save his job, he has to beat at least one herd of cattle, but don't bet the ranch on it. It's hard to pick Auburn in this one considering the disarray of their program, but it's hard not to pick them. It'll be close, but Stanley Stinker, New Mexico State. Ole Miss at Georgia. The silver-slacked Canines and the Insurgents are both riding high after big wins on the road last week, but one team has to come crashing down. Coach Mark Richt has UGA sniffing out a shot at the SEC title game in December, but overlooking Ole Miss may be a mistake. All three Ole Miss losses this season have come at the hands of teams ranked in the top 25. That's pretty cool if you're first-year coach Hugh Freeze, because an upset against Georgia would make the Insurgents bowl eligible. But playing UGA close might be a win anyway. Stanley Stinker, Ole Miss. Missouri at Florida. The Swamp Lizards' dreams in the undefeated season were doused last week in Jacksonville, and now they just hope to hang on for an outside shot at the conference championship. One more loss, though, and they are out. Mizzou comes in this week looking for their first ever win as an SEC team, and there's no better way to accomplish that than against one of the top programs. But could you imagine the looks that would draw from Florida head coach Will Muschamp? Just to keep the anger down, Stanley Stinker, Missouri. Oklahoma at Iowa State. The Land Thieves head to Ames, wary of the fact that Iowa State likes to upset ranked opponents at Jack Trice Stadium. But Oklahoma doesn't normally lose 2 games in a row, and you have to go back before the turn of the century to find the last time the Cyclones spun the Sooners. Coach Paul Rhodes does have a good defense against the run, so Oklahoma will have to win passing the ball. Shouldn't be a problem. Stanley Stinker, Iowa State. Oklahoma State at Kansas State. Not many people gave the Wildcats respect before the season began, and there are still plenty who are not sure if quarterback Colin Klein is capable of taking Kansas State all the way. The Cowpokes of OK State want to prove that point. With an offense that ranks near the top nationally, their job will be to put more points on the board than Klein and the Cats do. This could be an upset in the making if Kansas State gets overconfident. But Stanley Stinker, Oklahoma State. Pitt at Notre Dame. After taking down every challenger so far in 2012, the Leprechauns can relax now with the Black Cats of Pitt coming into South Bend. But letting up is just what Pitt would like Notre Dame to do. The Irish are finally getting the reverence they had prayed for, and an upset at the hands of a 4-4 team would dash their hopes. Look for Pitt to roll out all the stops in this one, but the miracle defense of Notre Dame will be too much for the visitors to handle. Stanley Stinker, Pitt. Well, that is the end of the first half, folks. Stanley Stinkers will be back with more to come. You don't want to miss Johnny Football and the Believers or the battle for the corn dog in Death Valley. Plus, we have a rare visit by 2 Ivy League schools, 2 service academies, and a team called the Fighting Camels. All that and more after you hear from our sponsors. Stanley Stinkers is brought to you every week by 5 Front PR. When it's time to take your business past the forefront, straight to the 5 Front, call the experts at 5 Front PR. By CBSSports.com Fan Shop. This is the place to find everything for the sports fan. From apparel to collectibles, Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, Major League Soccer, and college athletics. Click on the link on our sponsors page. CBSSports.com Fan Shop. by Passion by Eve. This is the remedy for those cold autumn nights when a spark in the bedroom can warm any relationship. From mild to wild, Passion by Eve. Ladies, book your passion party for the holidays now and get special rewards. Passion by Eve. And by Russell Athletic. Go to the link on our sponsors page and see the latest in camo gear from Russell Athletic. Arizona State at Oregon State. Well, the dam broke last week as the dream season for the Beavers got swept downstream. Now Coach Mike Riley wants to get his Oregon State team back on the winning track. Last week's loss was caused in part by quarterback Sean Minion's 4 interceptions, and this week it doesn't get any easier. Arizona State's passing defense is one of the top 3 in the nation. For the Beavers to win, they need a running game, and those don't grow on trees. In an upset, Stanley stinker, Oregon State. Texas A&M at Mississippi State. The Cattlemen from College Station had to Starkville fresh off a big-time win over Auburn, where A&M put 63 points on the scoreboard. That might be a shot of confidence the Cattlemen needed to pull off what would be an upset of the Mississippi State team. Coach Dan Mullen has to deal with the opposite effect after the Bullpups were beaten soundly by Alabama last week. A loss to A&M would crush those who believe in the Hail State, but with Johnny Football hitting its stride, it might be inevitable. In another upset, Stanley stinker, Mississippi State. Texas at Texas Tech. Texas Tech comes into the game ranked higher than Texas for the first time since back before the two teams started using the Chancellor Spurs as a trophy for this game. It'll be a good chance for the Red Raiders to get a leg up on the Bighorns from Austin. Tech comes into the game with one of the best pass defenses and one of the best pass offenses in the country. Texas, meanwhile, has struggled in their last 2 wins, holding on against teams with a combined 4-11 record. It's time for another party in Lubbock. Stanley stinker, Texas. Alabama at LSU. Well, the last time these two teams met was for the national championship, and Alabama came out ahead. I am sure that LSU will have that on their mind when the top-ranked Tide comes into Baton Rouge Saturday. The difference in this game may be mistakes. LSU has turned the ball over 14 times compared to Alabama's 6 giveaways. LSU also has 60% more penalties than Alabama in 2012. While Alabama does lead in offensive and defensive stats in most categories, those 2 sets of numbers will probably decide the game. The team with the fewest mistakes will be the winner. Stanley stinker, LSU. Well, while we're at it, here are a few more games that show up this week on the Stinkometer. TCU will get gigged by West Virginia. Duke will get scratched by Clemson. Kentucky will get sunk by Vanderbilt. Valparaiso will lose to the Fighting Campbells of Campbell University. Troy will fall to Tennessee. Tulsa will be blown away by Arkansas. Appalachian State will falter against Georgia Southern. Illinois won't be able to keep up with Ohio State. Army will be shut down by Air Force. And in a battle for the crayons, the Big Red of Cornell will lose to the Big Green of Dartmouth. Stanley Stinkers is intended for entertainment only. A free podcast and blog is available online at stanleystinkers.com. Stanley Stinkers is a production of Gramagdala Sports in the Rocket City of Huntsville, Alabama. Any rebroadcast, republication, or retransmission of this program without the expressed written permission of me, Stanley Stinkowich, is appreciated. Join us again next week, won't you, as we use reverse prognostication to predict the losers in college football. Biggest game.